Come on, Zoom, YouTube, zoom. Welcome to Four Thoughts of Our Founders, the podcast for the Higher Education Leadership Foundation. Joining me tonight are two distinguished bow tie wearing presidents of our nation's gyms. Uh, we are really excited to have these brothers. Tonight, we are talking about pedagogy, the provost, and the presidency, and how we are leading. I think there is a different space and place in the academic realm that finds leaders of that mold and that ilk to have a very special, unique skill set. And I think there are a lot that come up that traditional route, and there are a lot behind us. I know in health there's a great deal that are biting at the chomps to sit in the big chair and wear the number one beeper. Tonight we have a veteran joining us, and I'll start with the veteran, W. Franklin Evans. He is a veteran in that he has been the president at least two times. We know he is a son of Virginia Union University, has done so many different things, but served his first presidency at South Carolina State University, and now is the president of Voorhees College. Please welcome Dr. W. Franklin Evans. Thank you for being here this evening, my brother.
Thank you, Brother President Felton, for having me.
Oh, no problem, no problem. And the neophyte tonight is Dr. Willie Todd. He is in his first presidency at Denmark Tech, young brother who has climbed the ranks up the academic route, and he joins us. I think you both are in Denmark, South Carolina. Is that correct?
We literally share a fence. One side of the fence is Denmark Technical College, and the other side of the fence is Voorhees College.
Man, so y'all literally could have been in one damn place tonight. We could have just had one Zoom going instead of y'all being in different places, right?
We still know COVID is real, brother. So
Okay. Well, president of Denmark Tech in Denmark, South Carolina, Dr. Willie L. Todd. I want to thank you both on behalf of the founders. Our partnership here with the United Negro College Fund and Virginia Union University's Center for the Study of HBCUs is why we're here today. We're exploring mentorship and personal and professional development. Been doing a web series and had a host of individuals who we thought would be value adders to the space and for those who aspire to follow in our ranks. And so today we're going to have a conversation about what it's like to come up that rough side of the mountain, that academic side of the mountain. So Dr. Evans, would you please introduce yourself, my brother?
Well, as you said, I am W. Franklin Evans. I am currently the 9th president of Voorhees College. I did come through the academic ranks, the traditional track in academia to become president. It wasn't my desire to be president. I started out in other areas, was in K-12 as a teacher, moved up the ranks K-12 into administration, but then knew that my passion was higher education. And so once I got into higher education as a professor, I enjoyed teaching. And then you have other people that talk you into doing some other things. But my ultimate goal was to be a provost. I was happy being the number 2 person. That was my ultimate goal. And so I achieved my goal. But again, it wasn't my idea to become president. I was content. I was happy. I loved being the chief academic officer. But I am now have experience in the public arena as well as the private arena. I've been at many HBCUs, and although the name changes, there are so many commonalities and similarities of our institutions.
Yes, sir.
But I do tell people that now there are many routes to the presidency. I chose the more traditional route, and I'm sure later on I'll have an opportunity to share why I did that and why I still think that it is a solid and a wise choice for people who are professors and want to one day be a president.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Todd, President Todd.
Oh, yes, sir. So I am Willie L. Todd Jr. I am the 9th president. Didn't realize, brother next door neighbor president,
Wow.
we were both the 9th, but I'm the 9th president of Denmark Technical College in Denmark, South Carolina. And this is my 26th year in higher education. I've spent all of my years by design at HBCUs. Several spent 16 years at Clark Atlanta University. Then I spent some years at Norfolk State University as an associate vice provost and vice provost. And then at Wiley College as provost and vice president for academic affairs. And then at Denmark Tech as a vice president of academic affairs and student services. And then president. For me, I've had a really unique trip because I've started out as a professor and loved that. And as Dr. Evans said, I also did K through 12 early on for a few years with Teacher of the Year. A couple of times, enjoyed that, became a professor at Clark Atlanta University, and a president actually tapped me. They were trying to look at how to do co-curricular, and they said, you are a very student-centered professor, probably one of the most student-centered professors we have. So then I moved over to student affairs. And I'll be honest, coming out the academic side, you know, we are a little elitist at when you're in the academic side. I was like, I want to go to student affairs.
Y'all funny acting. Y'all funny acting. That's why we're having this conversation tonight. I'm so glad you said that early.
Oh, I'm gonna be real. I'm honest though. I'm gonna be real, but it was true. I didn't want to go to student affairs. I said, oh no, I'm not leaving the academic sector and going to student affairs. But it was such an important part of my trajectory. Because I went over there and was leading student affairs. And after my PhD, I decided to go back and get a master's in student affairs, higher education administration with a concentration in student affairs. And so for me, and then like Dr. Evans said, I'm sure we'll be able to talk about this a little more later, but having the academic affairs side and the student affairs side, I think made me a stronger leader and be better prepared.
How important do you think, now looking back on it, was it, and you probably didn't understand this at this time, but how important was it to find that track and be committed to it and be excellent in that track, whatever that was? But for you, it was academic, Dr. Franklin. I'm just gonna call you Franklin, and I'm just gonna call you Willie, period, because I'm, vacillating between doctor and president and this and that. Ain't got time for that. W. Franklin, that's what we're gonna go with. How important was it, looking back now, was it for you to have that linear focus to find out that track? And even though you weren't about the presidency, you had a goal of being a provost. How important was it for you to know early on in your career what that track was that was going to get you to that end result?
Well, I think it's important to know that, or at least to have some aspirations or some idea. I wanted to be the best educational leader I could be. I enjoyed teaching. I wanted to be a great professor because when you look at teaching, you know, we're the one, that's the one profession where you really get to mold and shape individuals who can do great things, but will look back and say, I owe it all to my teacher, my professor. And so I enjoyed that and wanted to do, and I did it very well. As Brother Todd said, you know, not only in K-12 was I Teacher of the Year, but when I was at Alabama A&M, their first Professor of the Year for the campus was me. Because I was committed to giving my all, to being my best, and I wanted my students to be a reflection of me. But as in K-12, you know, you can only do so much in a classroom setting. It's the administrator who brings about the change. And so I recognize that being a professor, I could only control what went on in those four walls. But, you know, moving up into another position of leadership, you're able to impact others and change the lives of other folks. And so I saw myself being pushed there because I had the leadership background, but I never, ever lost sight of that academic arena. I
Yeah.
always taught. I wanted to stay current because it's difficult when you're training folks and working with folks if you haven't been there.
Yeah.
And as Brother Todd talked about faculty and being elite, I've always said that faculty can be fickle. And they once you rub them the wrong way, it's going to be difficult to get them on your side. And faculty like to see somebody who looks like them, who's been in the trenches, and they have the utmost respect for those of us who've been professors, who've done it well. Now we can talk the same talk and walk the walk that they'll respect and hopefully look up to.
Yeah, I think it's incalculable the impact that teachers and professors have on the globe. Like you just can't even begin to understand the impact. So that resonates when you said what you said. It made me think about the impact and why people are really attracted and drawn to that. I totally understand that.
And I oftentimes say that I think if you always remember what it was like being the thing you were before the thing you became, the thing you become, you're going to be better at it. So I still remember what it's like being a young professor. So when I go to faculty or when the vice president goes to faculty and faculty are upset, I'm like, I remember that. I didn't want to sit in meetings. I didn't want to do some of this in my younger days. So I try to use that to guide me as I interact with faculty. And I agree with you, Dr. Evans. Faculty do have a different respect when they know you've been that. I mean, I served as a faculty member for a long time. And then whether we admit it or not, we're in the business of educating, but we're awarding degrees. If we took away a lot of the other things, if you took away the degrees, the college is going to shut down.
Right.
Yeah. And this is why this conversation is really important because, the academic piece for so long was the one way to the presidency. And I want to talk about how you get prepared. You both now sit at the top and understand that there are a lot more pieces to the puzzle than just academic affairs, right? And how do you get young folks, those who are coming behind you, to be prepared to run an academic enterprise? What does that look like while you're ascending? How do people pick up those valuable skill sets when they're impassioned to be in the classroom and be that provost with that little twinkle in their eye to do something a little different than the provost?
You want to go, Brother Todd, first?
So look, I've been labeled the neophyte and that I am in this circle. So I'm gonna yield to you. I'm gonna defer and use deference.
One of the things, Brother Felton, that always intrigues me is a young educator, a young leader saying he or she wants to be a president. That's the first thing out of their mouth. And so I always ask, so what is the route you're going to take to get there? Mm-hmm. And many of them say, well, I don't know. And I'm saying, so you're going to have to narrow the focus. For me, I chose the academic track. And so I have that conversation, but I also talk about the other tracks that are available. But the thing about the academic track, as I tell people, if you love teaching and you're a great professor, that says a whole lot. And you may want to stay on that academic track and just continue to better yourself. And one of the reasons why is, you're a professor. Hopefully you'll become a department chair, maybe a director, a dean or assistant dean. So there are levels and steps, and you can get tenure. And the good thing about it is, as you move along that continuum, you become a better person. And so if something happens, if you're knocked down, you don't have to fall all the way back down. You've already gone up the ladder so many steps. Mm-hmm. And so it's not a tremendous fall for you if you're no longer dean. If you're no longer dean, you can go back, you can be dean someplace else or go back to teaching. Mm-hmm. The same with being, provost. You've done some other things to get there. But in so many of the other tracks, people, they start out working they're a good development officer, and then boom, they become vice president. And if something happens in that position as vice president, where do you go? What do you do? And I hate using this example. My parents always said, you want to do something and be able to fall back. You want to be able to fall back on, but I understand that concept, that principle more and more. And so for those on the academic track, because you put in your time and you've gone through those steps and moved up and progressed well, in the event something catastrophic happens, you do have some leverage. You do have a firm footing that you don't have to always go back to point A. And that's the message I try to share with young people, particularly those who are professors, they're in academic affairs. That's the message I try to tell them, that you do your job so well that nobody else can do it as well. And when you leave, people are going to say, what happened? Before you try to move on to the next one. And so it's not that you shouldn't have goals and aspirations at the end, but there are steps along the way that you've got to hit, and hopefully you'll hit them well before you get to the presidency.
Yeah, Jimmy Jenkins would always remind us that it is okay to have an ulterior motive, or as long as it lines with his ulterior motive. And his was the institutions, right? It wasn't, he knew that he hired young people because he knew that they had aspirations, but he wanted to get what he could out of them, right? Sure. And so he always would tell us, like, don't let your aspirations get in the way of doing excellent work right here, right now. And if you do that, it's going to take care of everything else. That is an invaluable lesson that you can share with people, and it also insulates you from not having. Right? If you're excellent in a space, you will always be able to be excellent in that space. You'll always be able to be that way.
So true.
Yeah. Todd?
So look, that was a long response. I'm sitting here trying to remember the exact question, but I think it's
stay focused, Grasshopper. Stay focused.
But honestly, for me, I think there are a couple of things. There was so much that was said, and some of the things that I actually wanted to respond to. One is what I found is, for me personally, as a teacher, because I was doing it well, and you talked about being the first teacher of the year and those kind of things, I had done those in the college level. When I desired to do other things, people kept saying, but you do this so well. Why would you leave? You do this so well. And it's interesting because I don't know, I like the fact that now there are various paths. I do still have a high level of respect for the academic path, but also have a high level of respect for those who go through student affairs or those who go through institutional advancement, because I worked for a president, and he used to quote a president he worked for. He says, everybody likes sausage, but nobody wants to know how sausage is made. You recognize that quote?
Oh yeah.
And honestly, for me, what I've seen is an opportunity. Even when individuals are working at my college, when they come, I tell them, my goal is not for you to stay in this role. I'm sure you came here, you're an academic advisor now. You probably don't want to be an academic advisor for the rest of your career. I want to do what I can to help mentor you, to help you go to the next level. But like Dr. Felton said, you have to be good at what you're doing. And when people recognize that goodness, you move on.
Yeah. The trick really is keeping people focused on now, and that has been, a challenge I think we all have, and keeping people really focused on now. When you found yourself as a provost, what was shocking about the provostship that you didn't expect or didn't imagine? Is there any one thing that you thought, man, I thought I knew everything coming up as a dean and a chair and all this good stuff, and then I find myself as a provost and I now see things holistically, or a little more broader context? Was there anything that was outright shocking to you coming into the provost?
Is that to either one of us, or?
Yeah, it's just a fluid conversation.
So for me, I think the first thing is the number of people who don't know exactly what a provost is. And literally there's a book out there says being a provost, what does it mean? And they said, if you want to start a conversation with the students on campus, introduce yourself and say, I'm the provost. Because the first thing they're going to say is, what's a provost? And so I think that was the first part for me. But I think the part I think that was probably most shocking is I think you gain a different level of, for me, I gained a different level of appreciation for the president because you're much closer to the president. Mm-hmm. And I got a chance to see some of the things that the president had to consider that even as provost, I don't know if I considered at the same level. So I think I gained a different level of appreciation and respect for the role of presidency.
Mm-hmm.
You are correct. Fortunately for me, I was the associate before becoming, I served in that role for a couple of years at Elizabeth City State University. And so I had a chance to watch an amazing provost in action who was doing some things. And actually, because he was doing some other things, he gave me many of the responsibilities that he had as provost. So I really had an opportunity to work with the deans. I had an opportunity to really lead that division in a very special way.
Yeah.
One of the surprising things for me was after being a provost and being president, finding out even though you're that number 2 person, there's so many other things you just don't know. I'm like, where have I been? Why didn't my president share this with me? I mean, it was like a whole new world.
Yeah.
And it was shocking that to sit there and not know all of the stuff that I did not know.
Yeah.
Who would have imagined that you could be at that level and still just be in the dark? That was the shock for me.
You know, Jimmy Jenkins would say, Dr. Felton, you have a nice office, but it's a downtown corner office. Come up here. I have the panoramic view. I have the 360-degree view. Mm-hmm. And so when I would be frustrated to no end about decisions that he would make, it was his way of getting me to understand that as a vice president, you have a piece of the information. As a president, you get all of the information.
Yes.
And that does something significantly different from what it is when you're a vice president, right? Because you now have all the information.
Mm-hmm. So to be honest, Dr. Felton, I don't know if anybody can prepare you for that necessarily.
You can't.
Because honestly, there are days that I say I appreciate every president I've served under. I appreciated them then, but much more now, because when they say heavy is the head that wears the crown, I mean, it really, really is. When you're thinking about everything, so many people at a college or university, they're thinking about their areas, as rightfully they should, but you have to think about everything. And sometimes people don't understand that. And so for me, that provost role, I'm glad I served in that role. And I still say that academic piece, the thing I love most about having done the academic route is I can go toe to toe and help any vice president of academic affairs, and they listen and know, because I've heard people say that person didn't know anything about this area and they didn't have that much respect for him or her. I can come in and with my vice president of student services, I'm like, I've done this work. And with my vice president of academic affairs, I can say I've done this work, and they both appreciate that because I think I can support them at a different level. And this is quoting my 2 vice presidents.
Yeah, but I just want to say, I think that's the dumbest rationale that anybody would offer to discredit any individual, right? Because the president will never have, it's very rare that you'll find a person who has served in every.
That's right.
That's right. And so that being the qualifier is just crazy to me how people would, I get it. But when the provostship prepared you for the presidency more than you both understand that though, right?
Yes. Oh,
prepared you, and I would say that to every vice president as well.
Yes.
Let's talk about the difference of management with in the provost space what was management like there as opposed to the presidency? These may sound like simple questions, but I know W. Franklin is laughing because the nuances is probably what's tickling him about it. But let's talk about that because I think people coming up that track, they need to be prepared to understand how to lead in that space.
Well, let me say that my leadership style is, I describe it as being eclectic.
Hmm.
That for me, one shoe does not fit all. And
That's right.
so even when I was provost, there were persons that I had to treat differently. And so when people say, oh, you treated, yeah, that's right, I did. I did treat that person differently.
Right.
Some that you could be non-directive, hands off with, some you can be collaborative, cooperative. But then others, you've got to be very directive. You've got to be authoritative, and so I recognize that. And the sad part about it is, even at the level as a president, you're still having to do that. I consider myself a teaching administrator. That I try to teach, and as a teacher, I'm always learning. And so I spend time with my vice presidents, the people below me, and even the group that I'm trying to bring up, so that I try to be that example and provide the kind of assistance that they need. I work hard at allowing and affording my provost the opportunity to see things from a different perspective, to participate in some of the things that I have to do, just so he would be aware. But my
Respect.
style, my leadership style is
It's different.
very, very different.
Yeah.
And so some people say, oh, you're nice to that person. And when I've got somebody that is performing at the level that he or she needs to perform, I can back off. I can
Yeah.
back off. I'm not a micromanager unless I have to be.
Right.
And sometimes you said it, Brother Felton, now that you're in this role, you're having to do things. Your view is totally different.
Hmm.
And so at the end of the day,
Yeah.
people are going to look at the president. They're going to look at the president, good, bad, or indifferent. And so you've got to sometimes have your hand in everything, or at least close enough that
Hmm.
you can touch the pulse,
Absolutely.
or whatever is going on.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. No, I agree with that totally. I mean, I think my leadership style, I've learned everywhere I've gone, I observe the people that I've worked with, and there are nuggets of every leader I've worked with, things that I do. And when I do it, I say, you know what, I picked that up from him, or I picked that up from her. And then there are situations that come up that I don't do it. And I said, I won't do it because I know how it felt when that person did it to me, or when that person did it to me. And so for me, having been in that provost role, I think it gave me an opportunity to look at things from a larger level, because in my role as provost, I was still very much tied to academic affairs by the way it was set up. So I did a lot more still academic affairs items, but it still was an opportunity to learn and grow at a different level. And for that, I'm appreciative, because I know that I'm a stronger leader now in the way that I try to lead individuals, the way that I try to support individuals as far as their own academic and personal and professional journeys, and even the way I interact with our students. I mean, I had my most recent president was very student-centered, and I've always been a student-centered person. And so those are things that I took with me into this journey, and hope that I'll keep them as long as I stay in this space.
Leadership is some tricky shit.
Oh, it, it,
Plain and
it is
simple.
tricky.
You always find yourselves with managing your cabinet with the scorekeepers, right? Because everybody's keeping score. Well, this person has this much bandwidth and this person has that much bandwidth. Um, let's talk about how we manage scorekeepers. And I think we've touched on it a little bit, but when you talked about how you manage people, it's predicated on your level of comfort with their productivity. It's predicated on their ability to take the ball across the finish line, so to speak. But it is not predicated on favoritism or likes,
Yes, sir.
anything like that. Let's parse that out a little bit and really just talk about the nuances of bandwidth.
I wanted and I'm going to answer that question. For me, being provost, I recognize that I'm the number two person. I'm here to support the president. I really am. And so you're hoping that the two of you, that it's a good combination. That whatever the president is, the provost doesn't have to be that. And so I did work for a president, and she recognized my strength. And well, each female recognized my strength, which was totally different from hers. And they were good. They were comfortable with that. What I found out is with brothers, sometimes they are intimidated by that. And so as the provost at many campuses, we're the person that's responsible for accreditation, overseeing accreditation. And so understanding that my role is to look out for the best interest of the institution, to make sure we're in compliance, and to educate my president on whatever he or she needs to do. And so I worked real hard at that. And so when you talk about scorecards, I wanted to make sure accreditation was always at the top of the list, making sure we did that. But having quality faculty members, and so working to have a diverse group of people, but people who are successful in the classroom, that's extremely important. Writing grants and making sure you got faculty members who are doing those things, but also having a presence with alumni, with business and industry. Those are things that as provost, I took upon myself to do, but also even at the next level with my deans and the people that reported to me, I had to stress the importance of those things, because people are going to be looking and say, okay, so what have you accomplished? What are the results? What are the outcomes? Oh yeah, we heard W. Franklin Evans, and he sounded good. He talked a whole bunch of yang, but in the final analysis, well, what are you guys doing? And so if there are issues with accreditation, certainly you are anticipating that the provost is going to handle that or make sure that all of those, the dots are connected. If not, people are going to look and say, well, your leadership, something's not right. Either you're not able to get it done, or you don't have the right people in place. And a part of a good leader, even if you can't do it, is being smart enough to surround yourself with people who can get the job done and do that. And as provost and even as president, we have a responsibility to make sure it happens.
Yeah, no doubt.
And when you talk about that, I mean, that's so vitally important. For me right now, one of the things that I think has been a lifesaver for me, especially as a new president, is I really do have a phenomenal cabinet. I have a student service vice president, student affairs, who's been there over 2 decades. I have a CFO who has over 3 decades of experience, but he helps keep me grounded. And as we're going in right now, what I'm focusing on is a lot on retention and recruitment and retention. When you talk about that faculty and what's happening in the classroom, that's what we're putting a lot of emphasis on. And if this whole COVID culture has done nothing else for my college, and I'm sure everybody else, it's brought a lot of our schools, especially our HBCUs, even if they're dragging and fighting, they've come into the 21st century as far as technology. Now we have all our classes outfitted in a different way. We've been doing training for a lot of our faculty in a different way. And I think for me, even having been both provost and now in this role, I understand what I lack. And so I try to make sure the people that work with me have those things. We even have professional learning communities. Just today, all of our directors meet with our executive vice president, and he's doing some mentoring and training with them. And I went in today just to tell them, you know what, I appreciate you, because unlike a lot of schools right now, we are actually on campus. We have students on campus. We have a limited number of students on campus. And so every day, as I said to you, Felton, before we got on the call, it's like flying the plane and building it at the same time. And so every day is a new experience. But I feel so phenomenally blessed to have been given this opportunity to impact lives in a different way, especially a school like mine that, and with you too, Dr. Evans, we're in 3 of the poorest counties in South Carolina. And the goal is not to help those who have the most among us, but it should be to help those among us who have the least and help them rise. And all 3 of us as products of HBCU, I know that's what we do.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it is, you two both have just really articulated job and scope, mission, and passion. in what you've said. I want to shift focus now to mentorship and want to talk about some impactful mentorship that you have benefited from. What did that look like?
So for me, and I think Dr. Evans and I, we asked each other this question briefly, and our answer was kind of the same. As much as I know I am where I am because I stand on the backs of so many different people who have come before me, throughout my professional career, I haven't found that many people. And we know that a mentoring relationship is reciprocal, is collaborative. I found people that maybe I looked at and I tried to learn from them, but people that just reached out and said, let me grab your hand and let me pull you along and let me train you. I didn't get as much of that as I feel I wanted to have, which is why I think I try so hard to be that to other people. Because there were times, I mean, in my college years, especially as an undergrad, I can name so many different people. But once I got into the professional world, I just had a strong work ethic and I worked really, really hard. And that's certainly not to say that I'm not thankful because I learned from so many people. I served under your leadership. I learned things from you. I learned from so many people. But as far as just the whole mentoring concept, there's not a person that I could just think of that just took me aside and said, you know what, I want to help you be better and I want to see what I can do and I'm going to work with you and I'm going to guide you. Now, I'm fortunate enough now that I have some fellow brother and sister presidents and former presidents that I call and they will listen to me, but it's not a reciprocal relationship. And that to me is part of what mentoring is.
Well, mentoring really is not. Mentoring is advisement. Mentoring is
So,
asymmetrical. Now, the sponsor is that symbiotic relationship. The sponsor is the person who invests into the person. Mentors, I wrote my dissertation on mentorship, and it was there that I understood that I did not know what the hell I was talking about when I was talking about mentoring, because mentoring is asymmetrical. People advise, you call, they give you a little information, but that sponsor is a person who invests in you, and it is quid pro quo. It is tough conversations. It's seeing in you what you don't see for yourself. It is putting you in places only after they have determined what they can get from you. That's the sweet spot. It's not the mentorship, because everybody I meet at health, oh, I want you to be my mentor. Or people you see, oh, I want you to be my mentor. They'll call one time or they'll call when they need stuff. But sponsors, people that you invest in, that's that sweet spot. And I think that's what you do to people, Todd. That's, you're investing in people. Mentoring is cool, but it's different. I'm certain if you think back, there are some people that you touch on, but then there are some people that you have invested in. By the classic definition, mentorship is just advising. That
Well,
sponsorship is that hot stuff.
so
I've got to say this to you, Brother Felter. I'm disappointed in you, and you need to be beaten, because if you did your dissertation on mentorship and mentoring, you have a responsibility to help define that for us, because that's one of those words that, to me, I shared this with Brother Todd, that has been misused. And
Over and over.
when people put, I almost cringe, because people don't really understand. And I think we've got to work harder at giving a clear-cut definition. I read something recently where when you ask somebody about mentoring, you're going to get so many different answers. That's because right. people view it differently. And but President Todd and I, we had a conversation, and I was like, mentoring, oh God. What I see, what I saw as mentoring is someone who provides that kind of counseling for you, that consulting for you, and even that cheering for you. But right. I went through my career and did not see evidence of that. My dissertation, my advisor for my doctoral program was someone who I considered someone who molded and kind of nurtured me. And then when I worked under a provost who the same kind of thing, but I never saw people, I didn't see enough of folks being willing to lend a helping hand. I hated this attitude that I got mine, you get yours, or folks, and particularly folks that look like you and I, who were not willing to stop and know that you didn't get where you are on your own. You didn't pull up yourself up by your own bootstraps or suspenders, that somebody was there. I think that you and I, all of us, we're at a different generation that's reaching back and doing those kinds of things. But I really and truly did not have those kind of persons in my life along my career who did that. Every now and then there was somebody who spoke something positive and affirmed you, but very few people who offered themselves up and say, you know, I'm here. There were some of these people who everybody wanted to connect with, and everybody wanted to fall under. But I didn't see enough folks willing to want to be a mentor. You know, all of us are fraternity men, and we've got these mentoring programs with younger folks, and you're spending time and you're doing all these things. But as adults, and we're still learners, I did not see the same kind of thing reciprocated along this track. And as I've shared with some folks, it is lonely at the top, and as you are ascending, you know, you have fewer friends, and that circle becomes smaller. As you get there, trust me, it gets even smaller. But I think that each of us has a responsibility to reach back and to do everything in our power to provide that kind of assistance, that kind of guidance, that kind of advisement to someone coming along.
That's right.
Yeah,
I agree with that totally.
Yeah, no, it's tricky, you know, and you know, full transparency, that's why we started health. Like, you know, because I can't tell you that I got the same treatment. Here's my card, and you couldn't get past the gatekeeper, right? You couldn't get what you needed from people. And when you saw them at the White House Council or White House Initiative on HQ2, or you saw them at a UNCF General Conference, it was a quick conversation, but they were around their boys and their clique, the presidencies. And I see that now, but I understand the other side too, is that people actually need what we have. And so I think, you know, this notion of making sure that people are able to see themselves. That's why we try to bring so many different people to health, because everybody does not emote the same thing. Everybody doesn't. They don't like the same thing. They don't see themselves in the same thing. So the more people we can expose people to, the more likely people are able to see themselves. And from there, if they're able to make that connection, then they might find themselves with a true sponsor, right? But what we are doing more than anything else is mentoring. We are just giving advice, and it's asymmetrical. I don't need anything from you. I'm just going to tell you what you want to know, and that is by the very definition is just, you know, mentorship or advisement. And mentorship, I would argue, is probably something that should be used less, and advisement should be used more to talk about what we do for people, right? And mentorship, there's different grades of it, but that sponsorship, that's the holy grail. That really is the holy grail, and those don't feel good. You know, I was just on with my sponsor, Dr. Jimmy R. Jenkins, and there was never a sit down, young man, let me tell you how we're going to get you to the end. Never. But he did allow me to be the vice president for student affairs for 2 years, the athletic director for a year, was the vice president for advancement my entire 9 years, and then elevated to the chief operating officer. So he gave me opportunities, right? And I had to understand his leadership language, which is a challenge that most of us have. We don't understand the person who our fellowship is entrusted to. So the leadership and the fellowship doesn't marry, then people have bad opportunity or bad experiences. But I posit that most of it is because they didn't understand the leader, right? And so that's where we're going now. And we're talking about getting people to understand the value of service, and the value of understanding the leader. Let's talk just a little bit or spend some time on, first of all, the spirit of service. What does it mean for a person to come up the ranks while they're capturing all of the accoutrements of being the academician and the chief academic officer? How important it is for them to understand this piece about service?
Um, I think the service piece is vitally important for all of our HBCUs. A school like Denmark Technical College, founded in 1947, rural South Carolina, everything we've done has been built on service. I think most individuals who commit themselves to an HBCU are serious about service, because oftentimes the salary may not be what you want it to be. You may not have all the bells and whistles that some of the PWIs may have, but what we ultimately create is something that no matter how much money the PWIs have, they still are trying to figure out what that magic sauce is. And so for me, that service piece, that's what we want our students to know the whole. And I know I got a preacher down here, so I don't want to give too many Bible verses, but to whom much is given, much is required. And we try to make sure that our students understand that. That's my whole lifeblood. I tell people that if I die tomorrow, if someone could just tell my two daughters, your father made a difference in my life, then I would feel that my purpose of being here has been good. So that service is so important as we nurture the whole student.
Mm-hmm.
I agree wholeheartedly with you. I do consider myself a servant leader. And I think that we have to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
And, for most faculty, a part of their evaluation is teaching, the research, and the service piece. And you got some who see that service piece as very small, as minimal. Then you've got some others to the extreme. They prefer the service, being out there in the community, doing things and helping others, that the research piece might go lacking. What you need is a nice balance
of all three of those, right?
That's right.
They'll show you a list of all the things they've done.
I'm at every talent show that there is.
Yes.
I'm
wondering why they don't get tenure.
But you said something very important right there, Brother Felter, is that sometimes those who are in academic affairs, they think that their day ends when they stop teaching and they leave the lectern and start grading papers. But our students need to see us outside of the classroom. When they see their professors standing in the stands or at a step show or in the cafeteria or attending whatever program they put on, it sends a message that you value me, that I'm important to you. And once I see that I'm important to you, I'm going to give you the attention, the respect. I'm going to work even harder to show my appreciation to you, because you're investing in the holistic person. You're not just concerned about, you imparting knowledge and me coming back and showing mastery, but you are investing in me as an individual. And so that service piece is so important. And that I continue to say that to my faculty. I continue to say that to staff, that it is so important that service piece comes through. It really is.
It's also a very tangible difference, even though it's almost impossible. It's a tangible difference between your cabinet members who come with a spirit of service and those who don't, right? It is.
Yes.
And people need to understand that emoting from your very being needs to be this notion of student-centered, student-focused, and service-centered leadership, right? That critically important.
And I think that's been at the heart of HBCUs. And I think that's, for me, My biggest challenge right now is making sure everybody understands that their role does not end when the class ends, getting them to understand how important it is to support our students. When you said that, Dr. Evans, look, I might have to have you come across the street when we get out of this COVID culture. I might have to get you to do a Zoom something.
Sure.
Because sometimes we can say it, and when somebody else says it, people hear it differently, even though we're saying the same thing.
Absolutely.
But somehow, because somebody else said it, now they hear it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that part of the reason I'm where I am today is because I was such a servant-centered academician that when my president came to me as a faculty, he said, "You're one of the most student-centered faculty we have, and you're an academician. Why don't you try this?" And I think had that trajectory not happened for me, I'm pretty sure I would not be where I am today. Yeah. So that service is vitally important.
Thank God for sponsors. Thank God for sponsors.
It is so important that
a strong mentor. I appreciate that.
That the community sees you as somebody that they can reach out and touch. You know, so often we get in our ivory towers and we don't want to go out. But it is so important that not just the community, but alums see you as somebody who is service oriented. Mm-hmm. That when everything whatever is going on, that you are just you are part of the college culture so deep.
Very fabric.
You are willing and you will do whatever needs to be done. That they just don't see you as, okay, you run academic affairs, you're the provost. But that they see you and say, oh my God, I thought maybe you worked for housekeeping because or facilities. I see you out here, you're athletics. That they see you as not being too good to roll your sleeves up, right, get your hand, but to be a part of the entire campus process.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they learn that, and I'll come right back, Dr. Felton, but when I went to student affairs, even though I went kicking and screaming, it was the best part of the experience for me, because they spend the majority of the time with our students. Mm-hmm. They're in class, but then they're in the residence halls, they're in student activities, doing various organizations. So for me, that service piece, if I could get faculty to realize how important that is, not just the researchers, certainly the research is vitally important, but to nurture the whole student in our HBCU experience, that service is tantamount to none. You have to do it.
I had no idea what student affairs was. I had no idea. But I knew when Dr. Jenkins, when we had a void, he said, I want you to think about going over to student affairs just to hold it down until you hire somebody. Right. And I was like, thank you. No, sir, I would rather not. And we went on for about a week or two. And finally he came in and said, well, tomorrow I'm going to name you as the interim. So, I mean, he put me over there. And to your point about kicking and screaming, but had I not did that, I mean, I tried to hire people that I knew weren't a good fit just because I didn't want any more of that smoke over in student affairs. I'm talking about housing, nursing,
Panhandle, Greek life,
the dorms. I mean, it was just so much, and it was like being a mayor of a city, but that it gave me a different perspective about service, and it made things much more clearer for me as it relates to being a holistic leader. I want for you all to talk about, or to talk to the young folks as they transition up to be a cabinet member, a VP, about as presidents, about how vital it is for them to understand how the fabric is made and interconnected. It is woven tightly, and getting people, what's the trick to get people away from the myopic views that we have? I'm a institutional advancement guy. This is the only person, this is what I care about, right? How do we get people to understand that there's a broader picture that serves the entire populace and not a segment of the populace?
So go ahead, Dr.
No, we've got to get away from working in silos. Mm-hmm. Even hearing you, and you gave kudos to Dr. Jenkins and giving you those opportunities. even for those persons who are in academic affairs and on that academic track, you're going to have to step aside and connect with folks in student affairs, be an advisor of some organization, institutional advancement. You're going to have to go and connect with someone so that you can do some fundraising. You've got to be well-rounded, particularly if you're planning on advancing. And so what better way to start honing in and tuning and fine-tuning those skills than where you are right now? You don't want to wait until you're a cabinet member and now it's like, oh, now let me go back and learn how to work with people, how to collaborate with people. Let me value somebody else's division, someone else's unit. So you and as the way I see it, it's highly competitive now. And so you're looking for people who are well-rounded, and you just can't have that one skill. You might be a wonderful professor, a wonderful department chair. That does not equate to you being an effective and efficient provost. And so, people, so what do you have in your bag of skills? Well, I know curriculum, I know, and that's it.
Not enough.
Nothing else. Right. Do you know students?
Yeah.
What tell me about what about fundraising? Have you no finance?
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that your vita, your resume, that the informal one includes those experiences. Because when you're sitting at a table and someone's interviewing and trying to see if you're the right fit, if all you can say is you've stayed in your lane, you may have had a safe drive, but I can tell you right now, nobody's going to want to put you in another position. Just keep on driving. Keep on driving.
You say you need to have some dings in those bumpers, right?
You got to.
That's right.
You got to have pulled off the side of the road.
Yes.
At a rest stop here and there and done some things. Going to this gas station here. You got to.
Yeah.
But I think also what I try to tell anyone who has aspirations to be in various roles of leadership, get involved with various committees on your campus as well, outside of your comfort zone, because that's how you're going to learn things. And a quote that I stole, but I use it all the time. A lot of people like sausage. Most people don't want to know how sausage is really made. I'm a transparent leader, transparent and collaborative. And so if I can share, I'm going to share. Now we know in this role, there's a lot we can't share and they will be glad we don't share sometimes. But what I can share, I do share. I make sure that my cabinet, that I want you to be able to function in other people's roles. Now, certainly everybody can't go and be a CFO, but I want you to understand how to read that financial statement, because those were some of the things that people didn't teach me along the way. So I try to make sure that we lead with a culture and a spirit of collaboration with the individuals at the campus. I want them to know things that are going on beyond that, but I tell them, get involved, not just in your area. The way you're going to learn academic affairs as a student affairs practitioner is get on some of those academic committees. The way you're going to learn student services as an academic affairs practitioner, get on some of those student services committees. And when you do that, it's only going to make you stronger. And at the end of the day, it's going to benefit our students. And that's why we're all there. This isn't about me. This isn't about you. This is about what can we do to help them become better persons as they try to fulfill their dreams, just like somebody helped us along the way.
Yeah,
and we got a responsibility too. I want to add this to it, Brother Bill. We've got a responsibility to really help train the next group, the people that serve under us, and not be so insecure that if you think you training them, they're going to take your job, or I can't give them all the information because they may do a better job than you. So what?
If pass a collection plate behind that.
If they're reporting to you, you take credit. Oh, I saw in this person. I invested in this person. And so you want to encourage folks to get professional development, to go and get as much training and to learn as much as they can. So again, so that they're increasing, their reach, their knowledge base, so that they can be even more effective.
Yeah, it's the dumbest thing. Like I'm the president. I'm getting credit for everything anyway. Right.
So all the time, it's amazing how much we could get accomplished if we were more concerned about the end result than we were with who gets the credit. I don't care who gets the credit. If you go out and raise $5 million, like Brother Felton said, at the end of the day, the college got $5 million. The president gonna take a picture. But I don't care if you're gonna help do something that's gonna move Denmark Technical College to the next level. By all means, go forth.
Yeah, the tricky part is we have to make sure that you both touched on it. We have to make sure that people come to the vice presidency as officers of the college with also a keen understanding of consensus building.
Yes.
Because the amount of crap that you have to deal with managing your cabinet, getting them from killing each other and not working.
Well, that happens with you too?
Oh, it's everywhere, brother. And those who won't admit it are lying, right? Because we know.
I'm not going to talk about my cabinet. I'm lying.
No. I'm not saying your cabinet. I'm saying.
I'm joking. Yeah. I'm joking.
Yeah, no, it is. But it's we're humans, right?
Yes.
And so oftentimes people come to these positions, rightfully so, but they're not fully baked. And and it's about having to be very clear that I'll give you another example of why sponsors are what you really want. A sponsor, as Chris Brown so eloquently stated, oftentimes gives you a stretch assignment, right? And that's something that you yourself can't do by yourself. But one of the components of a protege, which is that sponsor and protege relationship, is that the protege has a skill set, a very phenomenal skill set. And the protege should be able to have in their back pocket some people, some cachet in their back pocket.
Yes.
If you have cachet, when that stretch assignment comes, that might be considered to be impossible to do by yourself, it probably is. But if you have cachet to get folk across the sector to be able to help and collaborate, then you're able to get stretch assignments, the impossible done. And I have experienced myself as a vice president and as a president that the consensus building piece is not there, the collaboration. So one of the things that we try to focus on at health is making sure people have those skill sets when they ascend to that space so that they can contribute to the end game, getting the ball across the finish line or, the goal line. But I find that that's one of the challenges. And in talking to, all of my colleagues, we commiserate about, that challenge. And so making sure that people rise with not just that skill set, not just all the good stuff that you need, but also those intangibles, soft skills, whatever you want to call it, having that stuff is really important too.
And I'll commend you, Dr. Felton, and the other leaders of health, because health has really done an awesome job of, I think, educating and enlightening. As a person who attended health, the most beneficial part of health, because I came in already having served in some leadership roles, but the most beneficial part was listening to presidents be open, honest, and raw about what it is to sit in this seat. And that probably was more of an educational lesson for me than many classes that I've taken. And so I appreciate you and the others for creating that space. I mean, you've done an awesome job with that and continue to do it. For that, I just say kudos.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. It came out of deprivation, and deprivation creates starvation. When you don't have, you find ways to get. But I think that what we're entrusted, and you coming up that rank and having that understanding, because the reality is that the presidency was a coveted space in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, and now we're at 2020. But in the 80s and 90s, they were dealing with this goes to the competitive thing that you talked about, W. Franklin. You were just dealing with people at Black colleges that wanted to be the president. Now you got folks in government, in secondary education, in business, PWIs, and then you've got 7 or 8 vice presidents on every HBCU campus that wants to be the president, and then all the vice presidents at all the 4,000 PWIs. right? So
And then some presidents also getting in the mix too. So
right. But the point now is that you have to have such a I think your toolbox has to be replete with
Yes.
a ton of skills,
Yes.
as you
yes.
have said, as you have both have said. Yes, I came through the academic rank, but I also have this over here, have that over there. I want to talk about why the presidency fell your way. Obviously, it was God ordained, but there was an interview, which I call them conversations. And I call them conversations, and I want you to know if you resonate with this. I call them conversations because everything they asked me, hell, I knew what the hell they were talking about. It wasn't a situation where I felt like I had to go learn a whole bunch of information. I needed to understand the history of the college. But when you want to talk about finances, you want to talk about student affairs, you want to talk about all the components of the academic enterprise, I was there. How important is it for you to have some semblance of an understanding of the entire academic enterprise when you get ready to have those big boy conversations, be it the provost, the vice president, or the presidency?
Well, for me personally, like you said, it was definitely divine intervention because I did not seek this initially. That was not my plan. That was not my goal. But I also was in a space where I had the privilege of being a vice president of two areas prior to becoming president of this institution. And I think for me, having gotten there, and the first thing I did was these listening, learning tours with the faculty, with the staff, with the students, with the alumni, with the community. So I had an opportunity really to learn what the college was missing. And what I realized is once upon a time, we were doing some amazing things, and somewhere along the way, something fell short. So for me, it was divine intervention. It was opportunity, meeting, preparation, and those two marrying. Um, my PhD is in English. So, with PhD in English, you can do a whole lot of different things. But for me, I really just think I was there at a time that there was a need. And some of my teammates said, hey, I think this guy can help us get to where we need to go. And I went in 6 months from being a vice president, a newly arrived vice president, to being the president at that institution. And I say to everybody, for me, I know it was God. And every day, when I wake up, I'm just thankful for this opportunity because I know how many people have been trying for so long to get here. And the irony for me is when I got here, that wasn't what I was trying to do. All I was trying to do was to improve the space. And this goes back to what we've been saying before. When you do what you're doing well, people will recognize that in you because that wasn't my goal. I tell people I was not trying to be the president when I came to that school, but I was trying to make the school better. People saw that and said, hey, you should consider this.
Yeah.
Well, South Carolina State was having its issues. And as the provost, I was there, had been praying. I am a man of God, had been praying for God to send an answer, for God to send someone, to send a Moses to save us. We were down for the count, on probation. We were almost about to lose our accreditation. Just the whole 9 yards. The state wanted to shut us down. But I had been praying and praying that God would send somebody, not someone of influence, not someone who had connections per se, not someone who had a whole bunch of money, but someone that God saw fit to bring there and save the institution so that God would get the glory. I had no idea it was going to be me. None whatsoever. I was shocked. What a lot of people don't know is the day that I became the acting president was the day I was going to resign from the institution. And so, yes, and a voice told me to be still. And so during that presidency at South Carolina State, I didn't know how it was going to work out. I was convinced, though, that God was going to provide the answer, that he was going to use me, and that is what he did. He used me, and when my assignment was up, Brother Felton, when my assignment was up, Brother Todd, he spoke and said it, and instantly he moved me to my next assignment. Again, one that I didn't go out seeking. He put me there, so I knew that it was God's plan to have me there. And when you wait on him, and I know everybody doesn't believe in a higher power, but I can only tell you about me, that you trust the process, that you trust that he has brought you through all of this, that all the struggles, all the challenges was just a process to prune you and to get you to where you are. I look back over situations and I'm like, I thought that was going to just kill me. I thought that was the worst thing. But what it did was made me stronger.
Yeah.
When I was at Elizabeth City State and dealing with some mess there, I had already dealt with some of that stuff at my previous institution. And so he had prepared me. I got to Virginia Union. It wasn't my first Christmas. And so you got to look at all the things that you've gone through and don't look at it as a negative, but look at how it has given you the experience. It has made you, molded you, shaped you, pruned you into being the leader that you are. And so that when that challenge comes up again, you're like, oh, please, I dealt with that years ago. That's easy. I passed that test with flying colors. And so now it's not anything new. It really isn't. And so for me, I've just been open to the voice of God. See, people will tell you a whole lot of things, and they all be, oh yeah, you should be. I had a group of people at one institution to tell me I should be president, and that got back to the president. And next thing
that ain't a good thing.
Yes, it was not a good thing.
That can create problems for you. And people meet
problems that you didn't even do anything. That's right. Problems that you didn't even do anything about. It's like, please don't say that.
So you got to be careful.
Yes.
You got to be careful. And when people are saying, no, I'm happy where I am. You just say a prayer for me. You
really
just
quickly.
What you're doing.
Hey, the president is XYZ. I'm just serving the president.
And I'm happy in my role.
Yes.
I am happy doing what I'm doing.
And I got to the point to where I would say, let me be very clear for everybody in here that this person said that I should be the president. I did not say that. And my record on my response is on the record that I do not want to be the president. I'm here supporting the president. Let me be very clear. I think that's critically important for us to reframe the narrative. Right, and to reimagine those challenges or those situations for growth, because that's what they really are at the end of the day. Yes. They're opportunities for growth that allow you, if in proper context, and we're able to extrapolate our feelings out of the periods that we're going through, our personal periods, our personal experiences and our personal feelings, and really reflect on the experiences, it really is something that grows you. Yes. All of those challenges, they grow you, and you don't know what the end is going to be. Your job is to continue running the race so that you can see what the end is going to be. Yes. But if you believe in the God that I, believe in and serve, then you know that all you are doing is running a race.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
It's your job to see it through. All right. I think that's necessary. I want to ask you, brothers, the toolbox. What should a leader who is preparing to lead, and more importantly, who is being led? Let's go there first. What should a leader who is being led have, he or she have in their toolbox? What traits do you find most valuable for your leadership? What traits should that aspiring leader have in their toolbox?
Definitely humility, patience, understanding, intellect, understanding and appreciation of a higher power. I think that's really good. There are some days that, for me, that's where I go, and I lay it all there and I leave it there. I think an appreciation of everybody's role and how we get there, a love of students, understanding of the journey that students have and the ability to remember. And if you didn't experience that, to try to relate to the young people that you serve and the people that you serve, because some are non-traditional. And then I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Evans, because I could keep going.
Right, you hit on some extremely important skills. The first thing that came to mind is listening.
Yes.
you know, so often people want to talk, and you got two ears for a reason and one mouth. But being able to listen, being accepting of criticism, constructive criticism. You know, we nobody's perfect, and it's a process, you know, for all of us. But also valuing others.
That's right.
And what others bring to the table. If you can't see the good in somebody else, then something's wrong with you. I love people who are analytical, who can look at problems and come up with some viable solutions. But the other thing that's important is collaboration. You know, you don't know everything, but there is value in putting heads together to come up with solutions. And if you're one of those people that, you know, hands off, you got to do, you know, and the last thing, and you said this, Brother Todd, you've got to care about students. If students is not a priority, you know, you're in the wrong business. If you know, I can't stand students. Okay, if I hear you, goodbye. You don't need to be in education. You don't need to be at the college or the university level if you don't have a passion and appreciation for students. You're in the wrong place.
Dr. Felton and I mentioned this briefly before the people came on about the fact that he misses their students right now. And I know my SGA president is on here, or he was earlier. The students are the reason we do what we do. And if you don't appreciate them, if you don't value that journey, when they were not on our campus, for me, it came alive when they came back.
Right.
And we're reminded, even in this COVID culture, this is why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And so, and then even also, I would say you have to have the ability to stand up and take the blame more than you should, and the ability to stand back and let other people take the credit. Sometimes, even if you get it because you're trying to help pour into some of your individuals and help them become better and more confident at what they do. And that's who I try to be every day. Socrates says an unexamined life is not worth living. And at the end of every night, I literally try to sit down and think, what did I do today that worked well? What did I do today that I probably could have done better? And then the next day, I wake up and I say, thank you, higher power. I got another day to try to be better than I was the day before. And I try to be better. Now, some days at the end of the day, you say, okay, it just didn't happen today. I'll pray about it and do better tomorrow, but I at least try.
Days for me. I mean, it is, you know, tangential to the work that we do is this, particularly for me, I've most of my career has been private, and private is hunt, clean, cook. If you don't catch, you got nothing to clean, you got nothing to cook.
Right.
And there have just been so many instances where, you know, Dr. Jenkins would always say that, you know, our institutions implode, and then the outside forces come in and take what else has been ravaged. But implicit in that is the enemy is internally, and he would always talk about pogo. We have found the enemy, and indeed it is us. And I can't think about anything other than how God covers these institutions despite and in spite of us, the sabotage, the indirect. And so I'm saying all this to say, in my bag, my requisite, probably chief among them, the toolbox that I'm looking for is your relationship with Jesus. Because when it's time to pray, I need everybody to be praying in the same space, because it is the only thing that you can explain how these institutions make it sometimes. It is not by man's will. It is nothing else but a clear understanding. I would also add in that book, that, you know, that loyalty.
Yes.
And loyalty is so tricky because oftentimes people think that loyalty is about you. No, it is not about me per se. It's about me understanding that there is a sentinel and a surrogate for the institution's mission. And if you're not loyal to the institution's mission, Roderick Smothers last night was so powerful. Actually, all those guys were, but he talked about taking an oath to the institution that you serve, and that people should be committed to taking that oath because that is one way for him to really understand that people are committed to the work and the work of service. And so I would add loyalty in there. And it's not about being loyal to me because I'm going to manage my relationship with the board. Those are the people that hire and fire me. So you don't have to be loyal to me, but being loyal to the institution is really, really important. So that's one thing that I would add. Those two things: that faith and that ability to be loyal to the service of the institute, the mission of the institution, is critically important.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally, totally.
The your wish for these institutions from a different perspective, though. Leadership. We're talking about leadership. What does the next cadre? We are where we will be, and we if God has his if it is his will, we'll be here for the next 10, 20 years. So we're where we're in the pipeline. What do we hope that those but coming behind us understand most about their aspirations? What do we hope that they're clear about?
I think you said it, Dr. Felton. It's not about us. It's about the institution. I think we have too many self-serving individuals. And I tell this people all the time, I may come and go. Denmark Technical College has been here and she's going to continue to be here. So like you said, it's not about me. Also understanding the plight of the HBCU, what makes the HBCU so unique, and being able to respect that. And if you didn't understand it, because, you know, sometimes we have people that have told me, I never knew what an HBCU was when I came here. But they quickly learn. And so for me, coming in, understanding that everything we do has to be about the mission, the vision, and ultimately how we're going to move the students to the next level. Because there are certain things like in this COVID culture, I don't care how long you've been a president, we all are novices trying to run an institution during COVID. I mean, flying the plane and building it at the same time. I mean, you know, that's just what it is almost every day. But for me, if they come in understanding that it really is not about you at the end of the day, it is about how we can move this school. They have to have an understanding of fundraising. And because right now we're in this culture that right now, everybody's happy and it's real good to give to Black colleges, but we know that reign hadn't always happened. It may not always continue to happen. I pray it does. But right now, you know, a lot of people are donating, but you're going to have to see how to build those relationships. And those are two of the things for me that if you understand students, if you understand the mission of the school, if you understand it's not about you, and if you understand that part of your job is going to be to build relationships and fundraise, those are some of the things for me that I hope the next generation brings. And then also the compassion to understand the ability to train and to share whatever talents you have, to share them with the people that come behind you. Because what I tell people all the time, if I die today, they're going to have another president tomorrow. He or she may be interim, but somebody's going to be there. Today, that's right, that's right. That's right. Somebody gonna get that call tonight and say, "Will you leave?"
Well, it's unfortunate, but you know, we got to steady. Body is still warm.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
When I think about Voorhees College and our founder Elizabeth Evelyn Wright, 123 years ago, being the first African American woman to have left Tuskegee to come here in Denmark, South Carolina. First African-American woman to have founded an institution of higher learning for Blacks. The first institution here in this part, an HBCU, to educate Black folks in the Midlands, low country of South Carolina. When I think of the fortitude that she had, the determination that it was about service, that she was called, she was commissioned to come and change lives. I stand on those shoulders. And I've done, and I continue to do everything in my power to continue the right way, the WRIGHT way, of giving everything you can to make someone better, to change lives, to change minds. You know, our motto and theme of begin, believe, become. And we tell folks that life begins for some of our students right here at Voorhees College, that this is the place they came, and we have a responsibility to believe in them, to instill in them a sense of hope where there's hopelessness. And then if we can do all of those things, they can become anything their heart desires. So I'm hoping that the next president, the next wave of leaders at Voorhees College believes the same way, because times have changed and they are different. It's not easy for our HBCUs. And there are those who have predicted that through this pandemic, we're going to lose about 10% of the HBCUs. I've heard people say that. We've already been under fire. And so this being at our HBCUs, being a president, is not for the faint at heart. If you're doing this because you want to be a celebrity, if you're doing this because you think you're going to get rich and on the backs of others, this is not where you need to be. At least Voorhees is not where you need to be.
None of them, brother.
Let me say that. And because Voorhees and Denmark Tech and Wiley College, we're not one of those institutions that everybody, the majority population and culture give money to.
That's right.
Not taking anything away from our brothers and sisters at Morehouse and Spelman and Howard, but there are others of us who, you know, we're in the struggle as well. Yeah. And I'm happy for my brothers and sisters who get the dollars and the donors, but also know that there are others of us that are here in the struggle. And so people who coming along have to realize that because you're in the struggle, you gotta struggle. Yes, because there are challenges, you've got to be able to face the challenges. And if you think this is all, you're going to sit at a desk and prop your feet up and eat bonbons all day, this is not for you. If you're not willing to work, if you're not willing to make a difference in the lives of others, I suggest you do something else, somewhere else. That's right. But that's what I say to those who are coming behind us. You know, you said we got 10 more years. I think I'm a little bit older than you guys. You know, I just hit my 40s. You guys are still in your 30s. But for those that are coming along,
I'm claiming all of mine. I'm 50 next year, so I want all of mine.
And the last thing, brother, I've got to say this. Sometimes we get caught up in quantity versus quality. You know, there are people who've been doing stuff for years and years and years, but they've not done it the right way. And so I'm more concerned about folks who bring something to the table, except an appetite. Yeah. You know, if you're not, you know, I understand you've been in higher ed 30 years. I understand you've been doing that 25 years. But what have you done in those 25 years? When there might be someone 3 years down the road who has accomplished great things and you're turning flips and stuff. That's who we got to focus on. We've got to pull those folks, draw those people in, and reward them for the potential that's there and for what they've already done. I know I'm going to make some people angry when I said this, but you know, for me, it's always quality over quantity.
Absolutely. No, I think we would all agree with that. I think also, Todd, you want to add?
No. I just agree with everything Dr. Evans said. You're trying to make sure that if I don't go to church on Sunday, I would have received that word tonight.
The virtual plate has been passed and the doors of the church are now open.
That's right. But you definitely hit on something that I think others who are looking at this, especially who are in a position to be philanthropic, need to realize, as excited as we are for those schools that they are giving to, there are many others of us who serve, you know, such major responsibilities. We serve a segment of the population. I'll use our school that once upon a time, the reason Denmark Tech is the only technical college in the state with residence halls is because once upon a time, that's where they want the Black folk to go. So they put the dorms there so they wouldn't have to go to the other schools. Sure. And then we were area trade and came to where we are now. and have done just an amazing job. But and even the part that a lot of people don't know about Denmark Technical College, we're not, of course, we're not UNCF because we're not private, but then we're also not Thurgood Marshall because Thurgood Marshall really don't have 2-year colleges in them. They only have the Susla Shreveport, and I guess that's by their relationship of Baton Rouge. So even when people are given to Thurgood Marshall and UNCF, we still out here. So I say we like the stepchild of stepchildren. So, so so, really supporting all of our jewels because there are so many people who are so much better because of schools like Wiley and the Great Debaters, because of schools like Voorhees College, and of course, Denmark Technical College.
I would add to that young brother and sister and wish for them a coat that is strong like armor of skin.
Yes.
To understand that when you come into this space, you will be misunderstood, you will
Yes.
be quoted and misappropriated, you will
Yes.
be
Yes.
castrated,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
folk will get
Mistreated.
fired, folk will get
Miss
fired.
everything. Yes.
Butte and scorn.
You will be blamed for firings that happen. You will be blamed for one sides of stories that people hear and take as the gospel.
Right.
Yes,
And
sir.
you have to understand that every day when you come into this space, you have to know that you are going to be eviscerated. Your character is going to be assassinated and attacked. But if you go to bed every night knowing that you did the right thing,
That's right.
you will survive.
That's right.
And what will matter not will be the thoughts of the feeble-minded. It will matter not to you
Right.
if you are treating people right.
Right.
So,
You're not treating people right and kind, then that's a whole different story.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I think
someone,
people also need to know when they come into these spaces, as you said, W. Franklin, that it's not about celebrity because it's only 5 or 6 of them that are really celebrities, right? Morehouse, Tuskegee, Spelman,
Right.
Howard, Hampton, Xavier. Those there's a tier that is there, but all of us are doing amazing work.
Yes.
But people get hurt, and I experienced this in my first presidency when I got my first anonymous letter that just shook me to my core because I couldn't understand why people would do and say things with no basis. And I
that's right.
think people have to be prepared to know
Yes.
that when you come
Yes.
in this space, you will get the glory, but you sure
Yes.
enough gonna get some of the horror too.
Definitely.
Uh,
Oh,
Definitely.
Horrible things
Yes.
that can happen. So I definitely wanted to make sure that we echoed those sentiments.
Yes.
oh, you couldn't have said that better, Dr. Felton, because you said that to me before, but I mean, that's 110% true. In fact, a person that we all know said to me last week that, sometimes they wonder if we're insane to come into this space because you must be a glutton for punishment because we all know our intention is to do things well. And then, as we say, decent and in order. Someone sent me a text a few minutes ago and said they feel like now this is the last night of a Kojic revival. So I told him that's good because that meant your spirit has been fed and fed well.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But
That's right.
but the truth of the matter is, I don't think people from the outside know how sometimes lonely it can be in this role, how heavy it is because I think we care so much and we want to do, or I can speak for me, want to do, well, I can speak for us, want to do the very best we can. And when your actions are misinterpreted and when, somebody from an alumnus come who give the school 50 cents a year and then want to talk the most smack, it gets to be a lot, but you have to keep your eyes on the prize and know why you're here and
Yes.
know what
Yeah.
your purpose is. And for me, I just always think about the students. It's about
Yeah.
them. This is about their lives and helping them transform.
I would also tell them to come with your own set of friends and
Mm.
don't look for any on the campus.
Yes.
And my life is so full. I'm not lonely. This presidency spot is not lonely because I'm very clear that people, if I'm lucky, I will develop a relationship. But at the very worst case scenario, I have people that I work with. And
Yeah.
it's just that. But my
Yeah.
children, my wife, my family, my friends, they feel me, and people need to make sure that they come to this space full and full of goodness, because you will be challenged and there will be times when you have to sit at the lunch table by yourself, and
That's
you
right.
need to be okay.
Yeah.
You need to
That's
be
right.
okay.
And never lose sight that you're going to always be on stage. It's,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
24/7. As much as you want to think you can get away from the office and be a real person, that doesn't happen. People are watching you even when you don't recognize they are doing it. And it's not like a light switch you can flip on and off. You got to be on point 24/7, 365 days of the year, because you don't know when or what's going to come your way and how it might hit you, sweep you off your feet, catch you off guard. So be ye also ready.
That's
Uh,
right.
Ooh.
I think it's funny because Dr. Evans and I talked about that. One of my staff members said to me that one of his staff members said, well, Dr. Todd and Dr. Evans don't like each other. I'm like, that's the craziest thing. We talk at least once a week and talk, have the best conversations.
yes.
And brother, I'll say this to you publicly. I appreciate you, since I've been in that role as my next door neighbor, reaching out and always been there to lend an ear. And I've appreciated that more than you would ever know. And I've said that to you privately, but I want to say that in this space, because it's good to have that camaraderie of people who are in that space, who understand what you're doing, because a lot of people don't understand what this role is like until you're in it. No matter what people say, you can read as many books.
Yes.
I don't, till you get
It
in
is
it.
mutual. Let you know that it is mutual. I value the opportunity. We laugh about, being a fence separating us. And we've talked about even collaborating more, but we're here in a rural part of South Carolina. And so when you think about it, we don't have anything but each other at times.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And it's
Well,
good
I
to
can
know that you are there, and that we do have this relationship.
Thank you, brother.
Well, I can tell you that Denmark Tech is lucky to have you, Willie Todd, and
Thank you, sir.
Voorhees is lucky to have you, W. Franklin. You are purpose driven, spiritually based, with solid foundations of good decency. And I don't think that people really understand the value of having good humans leading these institutions,
That's right.
because our institutions need moral character to make good decisions that are
That's right.
predicated on doing the right thing, and not the wrong thing that feels good.
All right.
Being clear about that. And so I want to thank you on behalf of the founders of the Higher Education Leadership Foundation, Dr. Alfred Anthony Pinkard, another one of those alpha men,
Don't hate.
Melvin.
Don't hate.
I love
You,
y'all,
you
man.
did mention I think Smothers, Dr. Smothers.
Oh,
I heard
yeah,
I heard
Smothers.
I heard you
Who
mention
else?
Chris Brown. I heard
Kim
you
Bro,
mention
Chris
Hakeem
Brown,
Lucas.
Hakeem Lucas. Yeah,
Not
I
that
mean,
I
all
was
of
taking,
y'all.
not that I was doing a
No,
tally.
no. I mean, you
We can tell
guys,
you weren't as you in the midst of these two Kappa men right here, but we
yeah,
understand.
Really? I
we
thought
are
you all were alphas.
Oh, you didn't
no,
think
we,
that? I used to think you were
we're
smart,
so
Dr. Evans. Don't start
grateful.
now.
We were so grateful for the rough draft that y'all provided us that
Oh,
we had to come
ah,
through and put that thing together. So,
Oh yeah.
we appreciate y'all. We
Oh yeah.
appreciate y'all.
Kudos. Kudos.
you know what?
But we,
I'm too classic to even
yeah,
respond to that.
But you know what?
Too
But Dr. Evans,
classic and spiritual.
well,
yeah.
I understand. We can't be jealous just because everybody can't make Frederick Douglass a member, even though he died in 1894.
Hey,
Out.
you're being
Yeah.
nasty. You're being
Listen.
nasty. But
Yeah, man.
let me say,
The beauty
Brother
of this is,
President
though,
Felton.
what I want them to
Yes, sir.
know is this is the brotherhood that we have, that we laugh, we joke, and this is with all HBCUs. We might riff with each other, but if someone else talks about one of our HBCUs, we're gonna come to their defense so fast. If you
Yes,
say anything about Voorhees,
yes,
Wiley, any other
yes,
HBCU, when
yes,
you're outside
yes,
of the HBCU
yes,
space,
yes.
be ready.
Yes. It's all about love, and
That's right.
I'm appreciative for the opportunity. Thank you, Brother President Felton, for inviting me to be a part of this.
Yes.
I think what Health is doing is amazing. I continue to just hear positive comments, how you are really changing some lives and helping some people to see the light. And so I commend you and your colleagues for what you've done and what you continue to do. I've just been honored to have this opportunity tonight and to join with my colleague, my neighbor, President Todd, who I have the utmost respect for. I'm just humbled and honored to have been able to share on tonight.
Yes, sir.
I think
Thank you.
I appreciate that. And I do want to, just say this about respect. W. Franklin is class personified. He was at our second institute, the beta cohort at Livingstone College, drove in a stormy, rainy mess
You remember?
to come. I do, to come, and that was 5, almost 6 years ago.
Right.
To come and present, and turned right back around and drove right back to Columbia. So that dedication I remember, but I want to share the class in that Dr. Dr. Evans reminded me, and as a youngin in the game, certainly a neophyte to him, I understood that he was pulling my coat, that I did not remember that he was a valuable skill set to use for the Higher Education Leadership Foundation. And I don't want anybody to miss this point. The point is that this fraternity and sorority that we are in as presidents is replete with respect. And I think that is the fundamental thing that drives the relationships that we have that are really predicated on a common bond, and that's being forged in a fire. I just want to say to you, W. Franklin, thank you for reminding me that there are so many more out there that are doing the job, that want to do the job, and feel it a responsibility to nurture the wave coming behind them. And Willie Todd, your future is bright, my brother. You are going to be a game changer in this space for some time to come. And I'm grateful that our paths crossed at Kentucky, no, Philander Smith, Philander Smith
Yes.
College in a December Institute as
Yeah, I
well.
remember that.
Yeah, so I'm grateful to have labored in the vineyard with you as well. Want to thank you guys tremendously for joining us tonight, and look forward to future collaborations, and look forward to seeing you all in June of 2021, when we can all go back outside and play. Hopefully, Dr. Fauci will have done his thing and we're able to go out safely. Um, is where we will have our Lambda cohort in Charlotte, North Carolina, and hope that you will be a part of that, Dr. Franklin.
Certainly.
And
Yes.
I look forward to seeing you, brothers. I pray that God keeps you both in the very palm of his hands, and know that we are grateful for you spending some of your time with us here at the Higher Education Leadership Foundation.
Thank you, my brothers.
All right.
Stay
Y'all take care.
blessed.
Be good.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.